Plateau on Zepbound, your third most crucial step you may not be looking at to help break through that Zepbound weight loss stall. Hi friends, I'm Elizabeth, Countess of Shopping. Super stoked today on today's episode. I've been on GLP-1 medication for over, rounding 19 months. It's been a while, over a year and a half, losing over 90 pounds. We'll be doing a weight loss update soon because I've got some exciting news. But on today's episode, we're gonna dive into the third most crucial part of pushing past a Zepbound weight stall, a plateau on Zepbound. It happens. It happens. It's happened to me, and I know it's happened to many, many of you. So let's go ahead and dive in. You may be asking, okay, what are the first two? If this is the third most critical one, what are the first two? The first two things that I think is really important in my year and a half experience of being on GLP-1 medication and being one of the earlier adopters and having tremendous success of getting very close to my 100-pound weight loss journey, but I'll update you guys later on that, is making sure you first conquer side effects. When you first start Zepbound, I think that's really important to understand it's pointing to your stomach because a lot of them are gastrointestinal, getting those under wraps. Then one of the most second, and that corresponds to weight stalls because if you're having, for example, a lot of diarrhea, you're expelling stuff out, that's going to affect your weight loss. And so as those things change or as you titrate up or things like that, that's going to affect potentially your weight loss and thus potentially a weight stall. Number two is then this is some food. Second most crucial thing I think is important for a weight plateau or on your Zepbound weight journey is figuring out this whole food thing. Having a ton of appetite suppression and not eating as much, what do? What nutritious, dense foods are you consuming? And then also on that, if you're not having tremendous appetite suppression as you go through your journey, then what do? Like there's the whole, and I've done tons of videos on both of those aspects. That to me is like the second most crucial thing in my experience. And again, I'm not a healthcare provider, it's simply my experience, strength, and hope. But the third most crucial part, in my humble opinion, for Zepbound weight loss, and then thus if you're having a plateau on Zepbound or a weight stall, is mindset. See, we're pointing to her brain or his brain is the mindset piece of this that I don't think that is talked enough about. But in case you're wondering, and we're going to talk all about that today, is the fourth most crucial, in my humble opinion, is physical activity. Of really you have to change your lifestyle with food, mindset, and physical activity. I've got my notes here. Let's go ahead and dive into the third most crucial part that you may not be looking at if you're having this weight stall and you're like, I'm trying to push past it. You're getting really frustrated. You're in the right place. I promise you're going to walk away with several tactile tools and actionable items that you may not have thought about that we need to explore. And that I certainly have. This is an energizing topic. So let's get it going. Number one, realizing with mindset of you can overeat on Zepbound. And for me, Zepbound has been this fabulous tool of being able to learn how to stop eating before I even start down a binge path, how to stop eating once I've started eating a meal and being like, okay, I'm full. That's what full feels like. And learning that. Then the next part of that is having this whole new lifestyle as part of the mindset of I have a new lifestyle with eating. And quite frankly, for me, being 100 pounds plus overweight and being morbidly obese, there clearly was a very unhealthy relationship with food that is need to be unwoven and it was so commingled, like pulling that apart to have this new lifestyle in which I have where I really enjoy exercising, which I used to detest. I really enjoy eating, but eating really healthy foods and that are nutritiously dense and high protein focused. And so how do you then let go of this old lifestyle for this whole new lifestyle? It can be somewhat of a mind effery with that. There can be somewhat with that. And for me, that has been required of having a therapist help me along this walk. I feel like it is a complete disservice to you as the viewer over the last year and a half. And I apologize that I have not talked more about my in-depth therapy that I've done on this weight loss journey. And it's been very emotional for me of realizing some of these horribly unhealthy behaviors that I was and facing a lot of those demons. I've needed outside help with that. And I feel like I have done you as a viewer a disservice, and please forgive me for not sharing more about this crucial step. And I'm not trying to get emotional, but for me, this is a very emotional topic. So bear with me as I go through my tears of sharing my experience, strength, and hope of changing my mindset. And I'm still in it. I'm not fully there yet. I'm not fully healed. I'm still in this process. of where I was working with a therapist weekly when I first started this. And now I moved to every other week. And some beautiful soul, one of our amazing viewers who prompted this video, was asking me a lot of fabulous questions about how I found my therapist and how that came to pass. I simply asked a friend who I really trusted. I'm like, hey, do you know of a really good therapist who deals with food issues and like, where do I go? And it took for me a couple of turning over a few different stones to find the right therapist that I could be completely and brutally honest with. And she's been with me through, like, when COVID, when I gained all my weight back. I've worked with her for a while, and I continue to work with her, particularly through Zepbound, because I can't do this by myself. And I have an amazing team around me of people who are doctors and a whole team, a physical trainer, and like all these things to help me physically and food wise and all of that. But the mental piece, if I don't have a coach, so to speak, along that, for me, I feel like it is a disservice. And so going to therapy for me to deal with some of these issues that came up when food was no longer a choice. I mean, eating copious quantities like this, it was a form of entertainment. And so how does one change that entertainment? And for me, there was like this grieving process of like, oh, this is what I've said I've always wanted, and I'm getting exactly what I've prayed for. Literally my life is answered prayers. Like, thank you, Lord. And so going through that, this is what I've asked for, I've gotten what I've asked for, but it's still really sad. I felt kind of like a whack job. And I've been so successful in so many areas of my life with my career and my hot husband and my sweet child and our life that my husband and I have created together. It felt very weird to start dropping weight and not being this old person who was completely ignored. When I was going out, nobody paid me very much attention. When I was younger, people paid me attention. And then when I gained all this weight, 100 plus pounds, nobody paid me attention, would slam literally doors in my face. And now people are opening doors. And I just got back from a trip to Vegas and men were like hitting on me and it was very weird. And I told my husband, I'm like, this is so weird. I don't like it. I don't like the attention that I'm getting from this. And so walking through that with a therapist of being able to dive into that to heal that stuff. Because as I lose more weight, more stuff is coming up. And as I lose more weight, more stuff is coming up. And I've had to heal a bunch of that stuff that I didn't even realize was there, honestly. Some of the stuff I didn't even know was, some of it I knew. I didn't want to deal with it. And some of it I didn't know, things you know and things you don't. And so finding a new form of entertainment, working with that on a therapist of like, why is this fun? This seems so boring. Being boring of like, okay, well, my husband and I are foodies and we love to try different different chefs and things like that and going to different cool restaurants. And like, when I go there, I'm like, okay, can I have these small portions or even not even eating at all? What does that look like with this new healthy lifestyle to make it sustainable, fun, and thus long lasting? Because if it's not fun and if it's not really sustainable, I'm not going to stay with it. And for GLP-1 medication, I anticipate I'll be on this for the rest of my life. And so making literally lifestyle changes with these, how do you walk through your first birthday when you're so full? You can't have a birthday meal and really can't really have cake. I mean, you can. Let me use my I statements. I had a cake, but I had a very small piece of it. I had like a cupcake and I ate half of it and saved the other half for the next day. Woo, happy birthday. And then having a birthday meal, but eating a very small portion of it because it was near my shot day. And so my appetite suppression was very high and I didn't want to blow out my weight loss for the week. And like going on vacation, how do you handle your first vacation? And now I've been on tons of vacations while being on Zepbound. How does one do that? And for me, it wasn't just the physical, but it was this mental, emotional component that has needed a trained therapist to help me walk through and grieve. There is a sense of grieving for me that I've had to walk through of a loss of this former self that I've always wanted to, by the way. P.S. This is the thing that I have prayed for. I'm getting exactly everything I wanted. Which is why it's so confusing to me sometimes too, because I'm like, this is what I said I wanted, and now I'm sad because I said I wanted this. Like, it's been very weird. Anyone else? Do you guys feel me on this at all? And so also, it's scary having this new lifestyle. It's scary. And so facing the fear of that, of like, that's okay. That's part of living this new life, is being afraid and still doing it anyways. Being afraid and then still going on a 2-mile walk, and being afraid and still weight training, and being afraid and starting Pilates, and being afraid now and starting Pilates and having a private session. Tomorrow I have my second or third private Pilates session. Like, who is this person? I don't know, but I really love her and I think that she's a cool chick. And so I want to keep exploring these new things that physically I haven't been able to do at all because I was too morbidly obese. And now I have the opportunity, but I'm afraid and I'm not doing them. Like, no, no, I rebuke that. I break that. I bind that. And walking through with a therapist to be like, it's okay. Let's keep going. It's okay. Let's keep going. Right. Like my friends, I don't pay them. So they're not necessarily always they're going to have my best interest at heart because they're my friends, but they're also not going to be as brutally honest as somebody like a therapist in which I'm paying to give me these tips, right? Like family, friends, there's going to be a line with that. Hopefully we have for me, there's boundaries with that. And so having somebody who can be brutally honest with me, who knows me, and that I can be completely honest with too. I can be completely honest and cry and not feel weird in front of my therapist to just start bawling. Because when we have our sessions, pretty much I cry every single time because stuff keeps coming. Now I'm seeing every other week. There's some sort of piece in this weight loss journey that I need to go further into. Because what I don't want to have happen, and what I'm somewhat terrified of happening, which has happened my whole life, is gaining the weight back down the pike. And my husband has to remind me over and over and over, Elizabeth, this is the longest you've ever lost weight and kept it off since I've known you. And he's known me since I was 18 years old. It's the longest you've had this. You've always gained back the weight, and you haven't. Not only have you not gained back the weight, you're still continuing to lose. And this is hard. Like, it's hard for me. This is hard for me to like face this, like, and also facing some of the really dark parts of myself too, of like, oh my gosh, like I ate away a lot of my life. And like, I understand chronic obesity management is a disease, and I understand that, but nonetheless, it doesn't make it any less painful. I've made some really crappy decisions related to food and my life. And now that I get this second chance back at life, I know I'm going to live longer as a result of losing this weight and what GLP-1s are doing for things like strokes, heart attacks, sleep apnea, cardiovascular events, and all these other things that they're testing too, like with Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and like a ton of stuff. It's a lot. Like, this is a lot of life changes with it. It's a lot. It can be overwhelming too. And that's what sometimes I feel is like, can be so overwhelming of like, in one weird way, that there's so much goodness coming in, and I'm so grateful for that, but it feels very overwhelming because I'm not used to that. Like how when I was in Vegas, I wasn't used to attention of like men hitting on me. I'm like, what the hell? Has the world gone loco? Like, it's very weird to me. I'm very used to being just ignored, and to not be like, that's been very weird for me. And so handling that, like, how do you handle that? So anyways, part of this mindset component is getting not only physically tough, going back over to my little pictures here, of getting physically tough, but also mentally tough. Just like I'm working on my muscles, I'm working on my mindset too. Because again, I want to make this sustainable. And if I don't change this mindset, I've changed the food, I've changed the workouts, and now it's the mind piece. But I think this has taken me, I mean, I'm a year and a half into it. It's taken me the longest to recognize, realize, and be willing to look at, and not be terrified to look at some of these things to help make these changes. And so what I want to encourage you, and I'm mindful of this, someone left a comment the other day, and I promised them that I would continue to think more about it. If I am the Countess of Shopping, so I do like to recommend things that are authentic to myself. I don't want to recommend things that are disingenuous. And someone's like, the price points in which you recommend are completely unachievable for some people. And so can you have more thought process? They didn't say it this way, but they said it in a very loving way. You have more thought process to be broader for different budgets. And so I very much want to be in tune with that. I am going to be more mindful of that moving forward. And I appreciate the viewer who wrote this. If that was you, thank you. Because they said it so lovingly and so nicely and kindly. Sometimes I get really mean comments of where they're not kind. And I'm like, why would I take a comment that's like, anyways, this person was so nice about it. And I was like, I really prayed and thought about that. I was like, okay, so how can you do this if you're on a budget? Having a therapist, if it's not covered by your insurance, or maybe you don't have insurance or whatever, you can't look into a therapist. That would be my recommendation. If going to your healthcare provider's website and seeing if they have group therapy may be an option, that may be less expensive, or just starting going even to the library to get a free book or you can get Audible type things. I'll link in the description link below for Audible on Amazon, which I recommend because you can listen to things while you're doing, like you can multitask while you're doing chores or whatever. Put it on your car while you're driving. The library has free audiobooks too. So perhaps that's where you start, of like, I'm just going to start listening to audiobooks or reading a book to help change my brain and the way that I look at things from a different perspective. And for me, I don't want to change my whole life. I really love my life. But these unhealthy things and food associations with them, because that is no longer my life, I don't eat 5 bold, big plates full of things. Like, for example, we went to go to this great Italian restaurant near our house. They have pasta. It's this big. No joke. The plate's like, it's like a platter. And I'd eat pretty much the whole thing, for being honest, and some bread with that too, and a salad, and maybe some dessert, maybe a cannoli. And so now having this little itty bitty piece of having like a taste and enjoying that and savoring that, and that was a whole thing of learning, like, what does savor mean? Like, really, what does that mean? Like, savoring it and then being present and intentional and not, excuse me, wolfing food down. Now I'm intentional about eating. What does that feel like? Like, it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. And people with chronic obesity management know. If people don't have chronic obesity management, or haven't had food chatter or food noise, and when that goes away, if people are like, what's food chatter? What's food noise? I've had a more in-depth video on that in my playlist, so make sure you click like and subscribe because you can go see those. But if it's where the consuming thoughts around food is basically what that is. When you don't have that anymore, or it's very much minimized or mitigated, then what do you do with that open space? It's like a full jar. What do you fill in this jar? When this jar used to be consumed with food thoughts and all of those food thoughts are empty, it's empty. What do you put in there then? Well, for me, that's been really a lot of fun. It's allowed our family, just to give some examples, I haven't shared this before, but I'm in the running for a very, very large brand. It's a makeup brand and a cosmetic brand. You would know it if you heard it. There's like top 3 cosmetic companies in the world. I'm in the running for one of them to go on this brand trip to Europe, potentially. We'll see if I get it. But like, even just being in the running pool of it, I'm like, what? What? So I find out here in the next few weeks if I got it. I really hope to. It would be like a life dream. Oh my God, to be able to do this with this particular brand and company who I love. But even just that of like, that's a possibility, right? And I'm not more special than anybody else. So for your life, what are your wildest hopes and dreams and things like that? And this is really, by taking and changing my mindset, got me dreaming again of like being a little girl of like, what really do I want? What does that look like? And so for us, we're traveling a ton. We've booked a ton of trips. We've traveled a ton this summer, and we're going to continue to travel. We've just booked a ton of trips for 2025. I'm going to be traveling a whole bunch. You know why I didn't travel before? Getting on an airplane was horrible. Getting a seatbelt extender, even if I was sitting in first class, it still was very uncomfortable. I was squished to the gills. Clothes to fit while I was traveling, usually in a tropical vacation, and I like to wear pants. I didn't like to wear shorts. I've now been testing wearing shorts and skirts and things like that. Like, facing all of these things, like, and so then I'm like, well, why don't I wear more shorts? Why don't I wear more skirts? Why don't I travel so much? Why, like, all of these false beliefs that have been broken down into these new lifestyle changes. Like, it's a whole new world. I'm like Ariel. A whole new world. No, that wasn't Aladdin. It's Aladdin. It's like Aladdin. It's a whole new world. And so looking at it from a different lens and a different standpoint, I want to be physical and travel because I can go hike stuff and go do stuff and go horseback riding and go onto the ocean and go swimming and go kayaking and go do these physical things that before I would be like, I don't want to do any of that. I'd rather just stay at home. Just stay at home. It's too much. And so that component of it too, of what do I really want my life to look like? What does that look like with 100 pounds down? And maybe you're not 100 pounds. Maybe yours is like 50 pounds or whatever. What does your life look like? And some of you are on maintenance now. What does that look like? It's what I'm starting to ask myself. Okay, I'm getting somewhat near maintenance. What will that look like for me? I don't know. Like, that's what I'm starting to think of. Like, I don't know. I want to figure it out a little bit. Of course, talking with my healthcare provider, but what does that look like? And so having in my brain, it all happens with thought, word, deed. So like thinking it and then speaking it and then going like the physical activity behind it. But it's got to first start in my brain. And so opening up these questions, I never thought a few weeks back I would go to Alex Hormozi. If you guys follow Alex Hormozi here and Layla Hormozi here on YouTube, they're big, big business YouTubers. And I respect them very much for business. And so having them and their team coach me and be able to talk to them and be in their space a year ago, like, no. And my company works with luxury brands and celebrities. So I'm used to being in that like biosphere or whatever, but to be there and to be a student of it, mind-blowing, amazing. Because it really is these big thinkers, big, big thinkers. And so that I can leapfrog backwards to be like, oh, that's because I changed my life with Zepbound and Mounjaro and with Tirzepatide. And so that's my question for you, my friends, of going back. I made you a promise when I started this video that you're going to have some tactile tools to walk away with. Is it one, working with a therapist, working more with them, continuing to work with them, finding a new one because you don't feel really comfortable and you're not being your full authentic self of where you can get really down and dirty with what you're feeling? Maybe it's not that because you can't maybe afford that. And so maybe looking into getting, okay, I'm going to listen from the library for free to a free Audible book at the library, or reading a book from the library each week and starting that practice up to change your mind and expand it. We are in the best time to be alive for a lot of different reasons, not just GLP-1 medication, but just the information age that we live in. You have access to your fingertips all of these resources. My grandmother had the Dewey Decimal System at the library. You know what I mean? Like, let's take advantage of some of these educational opportunities to expand our worlds. Maybe this is what I want you to start going through and asking of having in part of your team with your Zepbound and GLP-1, you may have somebody to help you, like a dietitian with food. You may have your health, well, not you may, you need to have a telehealth provider or a healthcare provider walking you through the prescription part of this. And then maybe you have a physical trainer or some sort of physical activity. There's a coach or some sort of leader within the physical activity space. Let there be a fourth one here for you of changing your mindset and changing the way our brains look and adopting with these brain changes. I don't know about you, but eating a lot of food, taking that away, there's a hole. And so what do we fill that hole with more of that you want? What do you really, really want? Are you a spice girl? Tell me what you want, what you really, really want. Like, what do you really want? And so this video, you may need to come back to it. You need to hit save or text it yourself, the link to this video, to come back and rewatch it in tomorrow, or watch this a couple of times to help with the prompting of these questions of what do you really want in your life? What does your life look like? With whom do you want to be within those lifestyle changes? And in the timeline in which you would like to have some of these things occur. Now, with the timelines, I can't. Alex Hormozi talked a lot about this recently when I was at his workshop, and I thought it was really, really good. It's so applicable of I can control the input. I can control what I put into this, but I can't control the output. Meaning I can control what I'm eating, basically. I can control how many times I'm working out. That's input, things that I'm doing. But some of the things, like I can't control the scale moving necessarily. I can control the input on that, but I can't control some of that. You know what I mean? Like, that's where the input versus output, that whole conversation of things you can control, things you can't, and the wisdom to know the difference, right? Like the serenity prayer for me is so important because it's going to help me discern these different things. So if you've made it this far, first and foremost, pat yourself on the back. Secondly, start prompting and asking yourself these questions. For me, asking myself these questions put me in a very vulnerable state, which is again why I needed a therapist. A trained therapist to help walk me through because I couldn't handle it myself. Now, if you've got kids that are in nearby space, put a little earmuffs over their ears. For me, there was a lot, and I've talked about this previously, so this is not breaking news, but there was some SA things that came up as a result of losing weight. There was a reason partially why I was 100 plus pounds overweight as a protection mechanism and not having that protection mechanism. And remember how I mentioned earlier, having attention from men and things, it weirded me out a little bit. There's a lot with that, more with that because of the SA, I needed more help. It brought up a lot for me. And I'm healing. I've healed a lot of it, but I'm still continuing to heal a lot of it. And so that would be one thing if that's part of your journey, which I know for a lot of overweight, obese, morbidly obese people, that is also a part of their journey too, of that some things happened to me when I was a kid that shouldn't happen to a kid. And the repercussions of that, of like stuffing with food. So part of that is the point that I'm trying to get at. And so that may, for me, that's one of the reasons why it's required some more things, because not having that protection of weight has been very weird. And so how do you do that, right? And so getting physically stronger also has made me mentally stronger too, because I'm like, I can protect myself. I can keep myself safe. Like there's certain things that I do have control over that I've worked really, really hard with. So all that to say, not, bless you, my hot husband just sneezed out there. All of that to say, and I want to end on a really energizing note for you of your life can be how you would like to create it. That you have a lot more power than you think you probably do. And that's what I've recognized. This isn't by chance, it's by choice. And so what are the choices, next healthy, loving choices I'm going to continuously make to change my life? And so some of them have been, and you've heard me, like my food has been evolving too. That's one of the things recently, if you've noticed in the last couple of weeks that I've been talking more about, of my food starting to evolve. I used to be so against like protein shakes and things like that, and how helpful it has been for me by switching to more protein shakes while still having nutritiously dense food like fruits and vegetables and fresh meats and things like that. But adding in more protein for me has been very helpful this past week. I do want to make sure, if you want to check out that Audible link down below, my favorite protein shakes that I have been talking about recently, and first and foremost is by Optimizers, the chocolate one. You can get a 10% off code with the discount code QUEEN. More of like the vanilla ones, the cake batter ones, those are a different company. There's a discount code for that as well. That's linked down, it's QUEEN too. Most of my codes are QUEEN, capital QUEEN. And so that has been this great shift. And then my collagen as well. So I'm going to go have my collagen now. Actually, I did a whole video, if you guys didn't see it, about like how I make unsweet peach tea, but it's collagen based and it's so good. So things like that, that's helping to support. But so going through your journey, if you've just started, focusing on side effects, then focusing on the food part. Then for me, the mindset. And then of course the mindset too with the physical activity. Because if I haven't fixed the brain, this is not fixed, but I'm working actively on it, may not be fully fixed, then for me, it's been very hard to have that physical component in there. It's all kind of worked. It all works together. Like a triangle, but more like a square, because I said 4 things, not 3. I hope this video has been helpful for you. If you've made it this far in the journey, our emoji of the day is going to be a gold star. So high 5 gold star for you. That tells me that you made it this far in the video. It's like our bat signal to each other. I will pray over you. If you don't believe in prayer, I'll uplift you in positive thought, and it will help me to get to know you better. I like seeing who makes it like it. I care about you. If you're watching content, clearly like you're on this journey with me and I care about you. We'll also talk more about it in our free encouragement group. I love that group so much. My face is having a little thing. I can feel it happening. I keep having these weird like flare-ups on my face. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Put down below your gold yellow star, and look forward to seeing you guys again tomorrow. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others. I'm Countess of Shopping. Count my blessings because life is delicious. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye, guys.